Now things are starting to get a little serious. Okay, so in the middle of July, I've been at home um, looking for work, and in just a couple weeks, about 3 weeks at this point, I started making an app that's kind of in the genre of what I've been doing for the last couple years. So I'm kind of making something that is like the sort of thing I would like to do if I could drop all the requirements that like don't like help me to actually get there. So I'm building. This is like my third or fourth video. I'm building a backend Go service that is content management system. The idea is you upload files into it, and it's got to have like a permission system. It's got to have like an AI pipeline to like label images, tell you what's in it, tell you who's in it. You got to be able to full check search everything that's in it, so you can just concentrate on like you make a little React app, you upload it into the server, and you can just like rely on certain things existing. Like being able to full text search would be the most obvious one, and you can't full text search on images if you don't have an AI pipeline that tells you what or who are in the images, because otherwise you would have to hand label them. Like if you have a JPEG that you're uploading, you would actually have to put in a thing that looks like it was hit by an AI pipeline. But in any case, let's get started. I'm quite a green React developer. I did a lot of front end when I was doing Java about like 10 years ago. But nowadays, when you say front end, it literally means React. And so this is what happens if you stay up for 40 hours trying to bend your mind around how updating state works in React. I think I'm finally starting to get a hold of it, get a handle on it. Okay, so let's go look at the shell where I removed the persistent mount, and I want to bring up the CMS empty for this demo. And when it comes up, is using the file system literally, and it uses naming conventions for things like permissions. The idea is I want to use open policy agent files to specify like what users are allowed to do, so that I can give an account to a user and the user can safely do what they need to be doing. So for example, let's get rid of that. For example, do I still have? Oh yeah, I do have Safari up. So I set up an account for my kid where I sent her virtually. I have like a fake system where I create like a registration system, and you follow the registration URL and you're in. And if you're in through this system, you end up in the UI. And I'm doing a little bit of trickery here where I'm running a service in the background, but then I put a reverse proxy in front of it on 8080 so that it looks like so that you're just using npm normally and everything hot loads, but your services are mounted in a tree. So basically, it's a wrapper around npm run start. So my daughter, whenever you visit as a user, your account gets created automatically. And the only thing that's in here is if you come in, kind of like unannounced, you get this open policy agent file that specifies what your permissions are. So that's why there's a green label with white text that says public on it. Everybody can read it. Writing is generally not allowed, except if your email is Donica77, which is would be asserted by your attributes, and then you would be allowed to use the system. Okay, so that's why this file is read write, because she would be able to update her permissions if she wanted them to be something different. And otherwise, it's an empty directory. There's administrative stuff, because there are places I have a temporary but highly reliable HTML templating system, so you can just like navigate with the browser just in case the React app breaks. There's always a chance that can happen because it's more complicated. But in any case, so it's just Go templates default permission, and that's actually what causes it to say admin read, right? In blue. So let's look at it. So it's called admin, blue background. Yeah, and you have to be in the role admin to get in here. So, I mean, to write, right? And if you'll notice, we have read permissions. We don't have read-write permissions. We have read-write permissions on our stuff. But the system is empty right now. So the CMS is started. I've got this NPM server stood up completely normally so you can develop against it. But then here's the part that I love. I asked ChatGPT to write me a reverse proxy to just so that I could. I described exactly what I wanted to do, like parameters. I wanted to stand up in front of a React server so that I can do normal React development with hot reloading, and it'll use all my services that are exposed on the Docker port on port 9321. Okay, so that guy is simply running. And now what I want to do is I have some scripts, a bunch. Actually, I don't want to do this. Actually, look, the way that you use this system is everything is done with curl. For instance, I will tar up an HTML app, and I'll use a curl post data binary to a URL, and the server unpacks the tarball because I told it that I would like to install the tarball and not write it literally. And what this means is once we run this script inside of rob.feelings, files, rob.feeling, yeah, in an app. So there'd be an app called V1, and it's like an unpacked simple HTML app. So let's run this. Now, one thing, when I started the server, I had to be careful to run a script to ensure that all of my AWS keys and stuff were set. And I can see, so if I run it right now, it's going to come up and it's not going to create any of the derived files. So yeah, let's actually do that. Let's see what happens when you don't have like your AWS keys set up right. So if I come into here and I start looking around, I can see that I can see that under my home directory, I uploaded a whole bunch of stuff. But it's just like the raw files that I uploaded plus permissions and thumbnails. These didn't have to go to AWSRekognition because anybody can make a thumbnail. It doesn't require an AI to do that. So the thing is, if I try and search for people, I won't find any people. Other than hits in Gilgamesh and Bible, which are text. But I won't find them on images. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill the server for a little bit. And then I'm going to set my AWS credentials. And then once my AWS credentials are set, I will be able to set them. I think they're going to be like, my creds. Right, and I'm going to bring the CMS up. Now, since I didn't mess with the volume out, all the files that I already uploaded there, so the UI should just like continue to work. At least once the CMS is like up and ready to go. Yeah, okay, it's up and ready to go. So, it's just some administrative files, and I go into my home directory, and I'm going to watch documents. There's no AI generated files here yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to like re-upload everything again. So this time when it's running, it will not only upload the files normally, but you're going to see that it's going to do some AWS extracts, right? So let's see. Yeah, so there's an AWS key, and I'm identifying which key I'm using, just so I can locate the thing. It has full access on AWSRekognition. It's also got some stuff for S3 buckets, but yeah. So in the middle of writing, uploading the React app for the server itself, so that I can get rid of this reverse proxy like once it's actually uploaded. So I actually like have two instances of this UI. I have the one that I'm standing in front of it that hot reloads on port 8080. But then if you're on port 9321, which is just the server itself, you can actually go to the place where I also like installed it into the system. You know, like a version of it that's known good. Okay, so now that I did this and I reload, you notice celebrity detection, labels, all this stuff. So if I didn't know who this dude is, I could have found it if I was looking for. Right, so it ended up being a hit on that thing, another dude, and the reason why is because when I do labels, you can tell that there is a face in here, and there's a person. And because there is a person in there, that means that a celebrity of some sort, and yes, it is Robert Oppenheimer in here, and that is why I get a keyword hit on it. So, I got a feature to hide everything. It's not a hit. I think that's going to be awesome, especially because I can put in some code to remove all of the nodes once it's collapsed. So like if I collapse a node, I could do a depth for search and like remove all the data from the tree, so that even if I have like a huge search, the tree will be limited by like what I'm actually looking at. So I think I'm really gonna be able to do like really really large trees with this, because the fact that when nodes are closed, I should be able to limit what I'm looking at. Okay, so if I also do, actually, let's do it. So if I do, if I want to look for a cat, I got a different filtered search coming back. And again, it didn't find it in a file name. It only discovered that there is a cat because ktt.jpg. Let's go and look at some of the metadata that created. There were labels that says that there is a cat in here, and it doesn't say there's any people in here, so I didn't run anything on celebrities. Although Grumpy Cat actually does show up in AWSRekognition as a quote-unquote celebrity. And of course that thumbnail is what's here. And I think the actual image isn't a whole lot. Yeah, it's about the same size as the thumbnail, so it's a little bit pointless there. Notice the AI looked at this image, it marked it red and said beware, there's a female swimwear or underwear, and it's Nicki Minaj in her famous lollipop picture. So yeah, thumbnails on PDFs, so upload my resume as part of that big script, and my resume is in there. So media and applications. Some types of files are not just one file. Like I only I tarred up this MP4, the VTT, which is kind of like the karaoke for where you put things over where the words are, and an index.html to wire them together. So some media files are actually like entire applications. Something like this would usually be like a simple HTML app, but it totally could be like an entire React app just for like an MP4, right? Because if I'm doing something like really really complicated with it, I could upload an entire zip file that's an app. And I'll show you an example where I did upload a zipped up app. First is that v1 file that I was showing you before. So yeah, so it's just a very simple HTML app. But here is entire React app. And notice, like if you use create React app and you just mount it to some random spot in the tree, it's going to be broken by default because it does something silly where it does let's see, yeah, I still got this open. It'll do like images logo.svg, and that breaks because the React app isn't installed at the root. So when you do that, you need to be careful that when you make your React app, I'm going to close this. I don't actually change anything. Let's see. You need to set public URL equal to dot, and that's equivalent to going into the home page and saying at the dot. And in your app, you also got to be careful that like when you do endpoints, like if I use endpoint blank, it works the way that it is mounted right here. But I should probably be reading that out of a JSON file that like after you install the app, you can go and install a JSON file that is being read so that it can like find all of its endpoints if they're not in like obvious places in the root. Okay. Yeah. So notice that this is on 8080, which is a hot reloaded app. This is the thing that it was a point of contention when I was working with front end devs, and all kinds of crazy stuff typically gets done to configure the app. You shouldn't be configuring or touching it. You should put a reverse proxy in front of the Docker network that has an exposed port, or maybe you go full Kubernetes and deal with all that. But I don't want to deal with that right now. I might make this into a Kubernetes repo at some point, just to kind of show how far I can go from front to back end. So, let's see, what am I looking at? So in here, my endpoint was set to like HP:// whatever. I just set it to blank, so then when it retrieves stuff, it assumes it's sitting at the root. So when I built the npm, I used dot as the home page, done by setting the public URL, so that I just do create React app programmatically, and I don't have to modify any of the files. And that's why when I mounted that little React app input into the tree, it just worked. And because of that, one of the things I had uploaded, let's go to the ugly UI that's like baked into this. Okay, so like the search, yeah, it works, but it's made of HTML templates, and it's just kind of like slapped together. And if anything breaks in the React app, this is definitely going to work. You're going to be super reliable for this internal HTML app. You can see that these are the claims about me. So there's a cookie that's been set. The real reason when you're doing like you stand up npm start, you gotta put a reverse proxy in front of it so that when it goes to your app, it all looks at the JavaScript sandbox like it's all same origin, because otherwise you end up doing bad stuff, like really, really bad stuff. Where's the terror that I'm looking for? Oh yeah, I'm looking for. I think I even commented it out because it was so terrible. I don't want to think about it. You don't want to just like open up cores. Access control allow origin equals star. Don't. Like if you're thinking about cores, stop it. Put a reverse proxy in front of it. That's a way to make it look same origin, right? Because if you want everything to look same origin, you should pass through a proxy, and you should configure the proxy so that everything ends up looking like same origin as far as your JavaScript backend is concerned. Your JavaScript sandbox is concerned to me. For example, when I start this proxy, what I'm saying is that anything that goes to registration, files, or search, or me, these are all my endpoints that are on 9321. But then, as a last resort, if it doesn't match any of those, then just go to the root, and that's where I'm running the React app, and that's actually where it thinks it is. So, as an end result, in like the hard-coded system where I don't have the hot live loaded React UI, I do actually have it installed here though. So if I go into the UI index.html, it's the same app installed in two locations in the tree, right? So you have this one sitting in the root, and this one sitting here. And of course, if I'm on 8080, I should be able to get to it just the same. So if I go to index.html, right, it's the same app installed in two different places. So it's basically two clients, one end user session cookie in two different states. So if you do that, React app development should be quite a bit easier for you, because you're not like I've seen a lot of weird stuff, like you shouldn't be going to packages.json or like messing with stuff. You should just install it in one point in your tree, and if you did it right, it will just work in the tree. And I say that because let's go to the ugly one where I'm actually, this is like a deployed one where I am just doing everything without a React server running. Let's see. Oh yeah, here's a small React app that I installed. Arbitrary location. So this is like the hello world. Because some of these React apps would basically be like a whole bunch of media files wrapped up into a tarball, and I just install the tarball, and I don't really care how ugly or large it is because it looks pretty. And you basically need to be able to do like multiple instances of the same app all over the place, which means that you can't be going in and like hard coding like where the homepage is. Right. Same app needs to be installable in multiple locations, and so I got a React app sitting there. I got one sitting at the root, and I also have one inside of the UI at the root, right, init UI, right. So that's also an instance of it. It shouldn't be hard, but like that should like be part of like what npm start like does. You should be able to overlay all your services sitting in the back end quite easily and not resorting to anything weird when you do that. Okay, so we got video. Oh, actually, let me show you like kind of like why it works. If, for instance, I go into the directory for my documents and stuff, so there's naming conventions, right? And even if an explicit permission file doesn't exist in this directory, what it'll do is it'll like walk up to the parents and it'll tell you which one applies. So it's like a virtual file. Also, naming conventions. This is way better than trying to use OIDs and like making everything complicated. You stop thinking about versions and stop thinking about what if two files with the same name, and you're like complying with how things want to be, and it's in your life becomes a lot easier. And also, because we're doing applications in this context, let's see if I just go back to go back to the ugly UI. If I go inside of this directory and I do a listing, obviously you can't use the HTML interface from React, so JSON equals true, and I'm basically saying so whenever you have a directory or you have any other kind of thing, it's mostly a directory listings. You want it to return JSON that the React app actually understands. And it's actually not literally the tree format. I do a different format because I like flatten it out because it makes it a lot easier to do the search when I flatten it out. But this is like hierarchical for one level. It's like my attributes for this directory, right? And plus all my children, and it's like the exact same format for that. Okay, so and that is actually going through 8080, but in the deployed one, when you're on 9321, let's see, yeah, this is actually HTML. This is just plain old HTML, not like anything complicated. So if I just go back to the root, weirdly, I'm using SQLite for the full text indexing. I'll probably move to Elasticsearch at some point. Like if I have to like move to Kubernetes and all that stuff, there are painful things about using SQLite. SQLite 3 is really, really great in theory, but the builds take forever because it's a Sego program, and I gotta wait like 4 minutes every time I change a line of code. So I got a habit of like if I make I change some code, and I save everything, and then I start the build of the container in the background, and just keep looking at other code and thinking, and I wait until the build is done before I touch anything else. The language. So if a cat or in uppercase dog, that's what this language is like. That is in SQLite. And the reason why it hit on these is because there are some dogs in here, a bunch of husky puppies. And in here, not only there's also that same image, but there also is a cat that's highlighted. And you can do custom labels so that when attributes go in, you can put in some extra stuff. So I just put like a simple attribute for like is a cat. But in any case, this is like quite progress. Like I haven't really done any serious React at all. I've been so back in that, like, I might look at some code and like make a small change to it, but not like doing like a whole app. So this is like my first like kind of big component. And the problem is like you can't just make this component. You got to make the back end. You got to have like the working permission system so that the curl post requests deny you if you're not allowed to do it. They deny you if you try to delete something that you don't have write permissions on. And importantly, if you upload something that's pornographic, you're going to get busted by AWSRekognition. The reason why it determined that there's like something like not right about this is because when it ran moderation, it got this JSON back, and it says, I'm pretty sure, 93%, that they're revealing close, right? It's suggestive. There's a little bit of problem with this though. It's kind of hard to caption, so I just like grab the first item that's in here. With the labels, it's even more difficult because what I really want to do is I want to take this and extract a caption and automatically set it on alt text on every image to deal with like braille terminals and stuff like that, right? So like accessibility is the thing I'm interested in. And just show like some of the interesting stuff that I'm doing. So in here, I made a pure JavaScript app, and it's got a set of fonts. So I like made a Braille font so that I can basically like emulate my Braille typewriter, except a real Braille typewriter can only do 6 dot literary Braille. It doesn't do 8 dot computer Braille, and you really need 8 dot computer Braille because you need enough dots to actually faithfully represent ASCII, so that everything that somebody would see visually is character per character identical, and you don't have like a crazy state machine. Because like things get expanded and contracted, and regular Braille is like really hard because of that. In any case, that's an app that installs, right? So the idea is installing apps, including like whole React apps or like small HTML5 wraparounds around media. They should be plentiful in here. You should be able to have a lot of them. And if you do your keywords right, the HTML gets searched, so you should be able to find them. And so there's a hit, and it's on editor.html. Yeah, and let me hide all the stuff that. Yeah, and yeah, my resume shows it too because it shows like some stuff that I worked on. In any case, that's it.